Welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are about to kick off this webinar for our eagerly anticipated Construction Online Estimating. I am Taylor Pruitt. I will be your product lead taking you through our webinar today. First of all, thank you so much for joining us. We're really excited to have you here checking out our brand new estimating feature. It is definitely one of the most anticipated features that we've had. The first actually big release of 2017, and I also have my colleague Holly Gibson here with me.
Hey everyone.
And we are going to be kind of tag teaming this, taking you through. We do have really some record attendance and record registration for this webinar. Looks like you guys have anticipated it and been just as excited about it as we are. So Holly's here to help me out and answer some of the questions that you guys might have as we go through today. So on that note, I guess for those of you who have never joined us for a webinar before, you do have the ability to send in questions, and we definitely encourage it as we go through the webinar today. We definitely do have a ton of people in here and a lot of questions we expect to be coming in, a lot of feedback, so we will try to get to as many questions as we can. We'll circle back around at the end of the webinar as well and answer any outstanding ones that we feel kind of need to be addressed or should be addressed for the general audience. If we don't get to you, we will certainly be reaching out after the webinar, either this afternoon or sometime in the upcoming days, to make sure that all of your questions are answered, any interest that you have in learning more. We provide you with some resources there. But really, we are just extremely excited to really kick this off and show you everything that we are going to be showcasing today. So before we get started, I did want to talk a little bit about kind of the momentum. Some of you who have been with us for a while, I see a lot of familiar names, familiar faces in here for our existing Construction Online users. Some I don't recognize. I know we've got a lot of potential interest in Construction Online for new clients as well. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about the features that we've released over the last year, and Holly might actually be a good person to tell you about that because we really have had a string of them and I don't want to forget any. So I'll let her, she's a little more organized than I am sometimes, talk to you a little bit more about some of those features and kind of where we've worked from to get to this point.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly right. It's a long list, so I'm not sure I'm going to remember everything, but I know that we've been able to come together with our customers a good bit over the last 6 months or 12 months. Looking back toward 2016, there have just been so many enhancements and features, many of which have been in demand for construction online. The biggest one and probably most recent that many of you will remember is Redline back in the fall of 2016. But even going back a little bit further, in 2016, we were able to launch commercial versions of Construction Online. We were able to launch a full CRM and lead tracking tool in Construction Online, in addition to launching this Redline Plan Room feature that many of you I know have already had a chance to jump in and start using. So some really outstanding features coming from our team here, many of which really come from demand and request on your side. These have been some of the most popular and most used features that Construction Online has seen.
Yeah, and I was mentioning earlier, and I'm not sure if it was actually before the audio or after the audio kind of came in for most of you, so I'll say it again. The estimating really is one of the features. It's hard to separate from all of those that Holly just mentioned, the commercial versions, lead tracking, especially Redline, which is really what we envision to be kind of the future of construction project management. But estimating is one of those that kind of holds a special place for us because for those of you who know about our company history, we've been around for about 2 decades now and started as a desktop program with ConstructionSuite. And we really built our reputation and built our strengths on being known for powerful estimating and powerful job costing. And so we're really excited to bring that to the cloud now.
And that's exactly right. When you think of estimating, you think of UDA. I mean, those two really go hand in hand. We've got a lot of expertise on the estimating side, and so I'm really excited for Taylor to, be able to really go through the new Construction Online Estimating and show you guys what we're really offering now as the next generation estimating from UDA.
Yeah, and we'll see as we go through today a couple things that will tie in to what I'm about to tell you, and we'll touch on those as we go through. But one of the biggest reasons that I'm excited about the estimating as well is not just to really separate us and give you what is now going to be the most powerful estimating that you'll find on a cloud-based system, but it really is going to lay the foundation for a really big 2017 campaign that we have planned to tie into a lot of big features that have been in high demand and really that there's a gap for in the industry. things like some enhanced accounting integration with QuickBooks Online, Xero, and maybe some other programs. Having an items database, so those of you familiar with ConstructionSuite know that we've partnered with RS Means in the past, so maybe having our own database and tying in assemblies and items there into the estimating as well. Digital takeoff, so that's a big one. We've already got the foundations of that with Redline. That's going to be the biggest project, I think, of 2017 and the most really revolutionary adjustment that's going to come and enhancement that's going to come with the addition of estimating and Redline is tying into digital takeoff. And then also some things like bid solicitation. So now in the new estimating, you'll see we have the ability to assign resources to different areas, track the bid status, whether it's been bid or if it's been locked in and awarded or if it's estimated internally. This is really going to lay the foundation for tying into what we like to use with an online network that is open. So we really pride ourselves on the open network concept with Construction Online. It's more of a social network than a contact database per se. And the bid solicitation is a big entry point that's introduced by the estimating to really remove those barriers that prevent a lot of construction professionals from working together and collaborating together. And we're not going to talk about a lot of that explicitly today because that is, again, coming in the next couple months or the next couple quarters. But this is really going to be the foundation for that. And what we've done with estimating here really just paves the way for a big year that's coming up here at UDA. So we will be extremely excited to roll out more of these webinars like we have today as those features are released. But I guess we'll get back a little bit and focus on the topic at hand. I can't help but get carried away a little bit just thinking about the direction that we're going and some of the new features that we have in our pocket. So I'll reel it back in a little bit and and bring it back to estimating, which is, I guess, what you guys are here to see today.
Exactly. Well, we're so excited. I think we're excited about the foundation that's being laid for 2017. So a lot of outstanding features are coming along, will be available to you over the coming months. What we'll look at today with new Construction Online Estimating is really going to be the first of many enhancements that you'll see from UDA this year. But it's one that I'm really super proud to share with everyone. We've really been able to leverage our expertise on the estimating side into a powerful and yet at the same time really easy to use estimating platform. So you're able to go directly to Construction Online, create detailed estimates. Well, Taylor have a lot to show you today, including like the 5-column layout and the classic layout and some options that you'll have within estimating. So really easy to use, really easy to get started with, but really the power that you would expect from UDA.
Right. And so I guess without too much more delay, I know you guys are probably just as excited as we are to talk about some of those new features, but they will have their time in the spotlight as they're released. So I'll get back to the main event today and talk about the estimating for you. And really what you guys will see, again, we've got a mix of, I'm sure, existing Construction Online clients, existing ConstructionSuite clients maybe, and then people maybe who have never heard of us before or never seen us before today, or just kind of diving into construction, starting their business and seeing what's out there. So what you'll see on my screen right now is going to be the latest activity page. So those of you who use Construction Online are familiar with it. I start here because we've actually updated our estimating dashboard to reflect some of the new values and the new options that you'll see in our estimating. It's not going to look too much different than what you're used to for existing users, but we can circle back around here. This is the overall company dashboard that will show all of your existing projects and estimates that you have, how far through or what you spent on your budgets, and you'll see where these values come from as we dive in. And so to get to the estimating, I guess, which is the big question that a lot of you guys are looking forward to, the left-hand navigation over here, you'll see that we've got our new tag, and just to clarify, this is not live at this moment, so if you're trying to walk through it on Construction Online with us, you actually will not see this. We're planning on, hopefully in the next day or two, actually releasing this to you guys. Maybe at the latest on Monday of next week, kind of going out and making this publicly available to everybody. But we wanted to show you guys exactly where it is, get a little bit of last-minute feedback, and make sure that what we're putting out there is far and away the best in the industry. So when you go to the estimating on the left-hand side, this video, by the way, will be recorded and posted to our YouTube channel, so if you need to go back and walk through it or kind of refresh yourself on any of this, or if you know any of your colleagues or team members that were not able to make it today, we will have this posted on our YouTube channel. You should get a follow-up email from registering for the webinar with that content. So No worries there if you kind of miss something today, or if we don't get to your question, we can get back to that after. But when you click on the estimating tab, it'll take you here, and where you're used to seeing a list of estimates right now, we've got the option to go ahead and choose an estimate from the list at the top, or to create a new estimate. And it's kind of hard to know exactly where to start, because some of you will have a different path than others. Existing users will have existing budgets that you've been using that will be converted into estimates. Those of you who are brand new and fresh to the system will come to a screen where you don't have anything already. So creating estimates, I guess, is where I'll start with. And you can just start by clicking the big green button. And the first thing that you'll notice here that is different than what we currently have on Construction Online, or what we have had up to this point, is that we now have an estimate type selection. So standard is going to be what you're used to with the existing budgeting. We do have some additional columns in there, things like markup and resources and job costing that we've added to it, but it's going to be the standard. One line has a quantity and a cost, and then you mark up or modify it from there. The 5 column is going to be taking the traditional classification approach that we have in the standard estimating and breaking it out into exactly what it says, 5 individual columns. So you'll have a material column, a labor column, a subcontractor column, equipment column, and an other column for your expenses, in order to more easily classify those and condense them into a way that's easier to work with for many of you that are taking multiple different bids and items from subs and estimating it out yourself. So we'll take a look at both of these today. I will start with the standard one just to give you guys a kind of ease into it, to show you some of the new features without diving into the brand new estimate style. And so we'll actually save this, let's say, to our university hotel project. And one thing that we're really proud of and really happy about with the new estimating as well is the ease of entry that you have for your data, and how easy it is to go through and just quickly create new estimates and new frameworks. And so as you're going through here, you can see we can start with category 1, and I'll give us a little bit of context here, and get back here to the planning, and now we'll say that this is going to be design services. And then maybe we've got blueprints, surveying, permits, things like that. But you can see as you continue to hit enter, so a lot of keyboard shortcuts. I know you guys can't see my hands or what I'm doing here, but as you hit enter, you can just continually create new categories or new subcategories. If you hold shift and hit enter, it takes you to the next category. So as you start going through, you can do site work, and if you want to go through and just do your category structure first, you can do that. And framing, foundation. As you continue to go through, you kind of build the estimate structure. And one thing to note is that we do have the ability for you to template these, so as easy as it is to go through and create a new estimate, you don't have to do this every single time. If you do fairly repetitive jobs, spec homes, or different types of jobs, if you're a remodeler, then you have kitchen, bath, etc. If you're custom homes and you have a couple different floor plans, if you're commercial and have different types of jobs, restaurants or hotels that you're renovating, or ground up design build, you can have templates for each of these, and that's just done by in our actions menu at the top, saving as a template. It'll save to your nice templates tab up here, so that even though it's super easy to go through and very quick to create estimates, we've made it even faster for you to do that over and over again by templating these and keeping the information in place that you need. And so as we go through here, you'll see that creating the structure is extremely easy. Most of what I'm going to do today is going to be focused on an estimate that's already been created, so you can really see the full content, that we don't have to spend a lot of our time today actually entering data, creating estimates, putting a full category and subcategory structure in. And so as we go through, I'm going to talk a little bit about the new columns that we have before we go to the existing estimate, so you can see how this works. But in our standard estimating, as I mentioned, we've got a quantity cell, a unit cost, and a base cost, which make up the primary estimating or costing functionality for you. So maybe for design services, we've just got a single quantity. This is going to be $5,000, let's say. That fills in our base cost. And then one of the things that we've added to this that you previously only had company overhead and margin available for is the markup column. So you want to track your markups, make your profits on the job, and let's say that we've got a 10% markup. We would just type 10 in. The markup type is going to determine how that 10 is applied. So we've got a percent, we've got a dollar value and a dollar per unit. And so right now with the percent, you'll see that it just took 10% of 5,000, which is 500, added that on, and now we have the contract price. If you want to do a flat dollar amount, you can do that as well. And maybe it was $500 instead of 10%. Has the same effect. If you want to do it on a dollars per unit basis, currently the units or the quantity is 1, but if we start to increment this, you'll see that now we have a $500 per unit markup times 2, which is a total of $1,000, taking us up to a contract price of $11,000 on top of the $10,000 base cost. So some really cool markup features there that you can add on, track that on a line-by-line basis. Some of the enhancements and kind of updates that we would probably expect to have for some of you that are familiar with our other estimating systems might ask about is classification markups. So this will tie into the 5 column here in a moment as well, but we do have the classification column to mark material, labor, subcontractor equipment, and other expenses. And so one thing that we would expect to have for you guys in the near future would be a way to go through and do class markups to say everything that's material, go ahead and mark that up 10%, everything that's labor, mark it up 15%, and quickly adjust and go through and add that to the estimate without having to go on a line-by-line basis. And so the markup column is going to be nice for managing your contract prices and your costs. Keep a separate view of what you are paying on the job versus what you're charging your clients. And of course, the contract price that we see here is what your clients will see when you generate proposals or reports. All of that to come here in our webinar as we generate that as we go through. But that is one of the main features that we have added to the estimating as well. I guess I should talk about the views that we've added. So some of you might have heard whispers or talk that we have now really added a different view for your job costing as opposed to your estimating. So kind of a pre-contract and a post-contract view. If you look over here on the right-hand side, you will notice that we actually have an estimate mode and a job costing mode. And within the estimate mode, I'm in the basic view right now, which what that's really going to mean is just it's a simplified version of the estimate. You put your quantities and costs in, you track your markup, and that's really all that's showing on the screen for those of you who don't need anything crazy. If you go to the advanced view, however, it's going to add a few more columns to this. So in addition to the name, you can add descriptions to these. You've got your quantity, unit, and base cost still, but then it adds some of those functionalities that we had talked about earlier. Some of the things like our resource assignments, the change order price column you'll see has been added as well. But the resource assignments really pave the way for additional contracts to be generated, requests for quotes, purchase orders, things of that nature, as well as the bid tracking and bid solicitation that is to come here in the next quarter or two, probably with Construction Online. And so here you can go through and the status column will let you say whether this is estimated internally, whether this has been bid out and is currently in the bid stage for some of your subcontractors or vendors, or when the bid's been awarded, you can switch it to firm. Reports will be available to generate based off the status column here. But with the resource column, you can go through and it'll actually pull from your existing list of contacts, and you can assign a few different contacts to this, depending on who it's bid out to. So let's say that right now it's in the bid stage between Frank, George, and Ian. And we are comparing those bids, and when bid day comes, let's say that we award those to Frank. So we would go in here, remove George and Ian as the resource, switch this over to firm to go ahead and say that that's been locked in. And now we have a better way of managing our estimates as we go through the job and seeing what costs are concrete, which ones are still out there kind of in limbo, and which ones we're handling internally as well. So one of the other columns that we've added there, some great features, and as exciting as it is to go ahead and add those, it really does pave the way for some bigger features coming along the way. But one thing that this also gives you, in addition to just tracking this visually and seeing what the status of this particular subcategory is, what resources assigned to them, we have actually enhanced your right-hand sidebar with the budget summary. So many of you would be familiar with the price by category and maybe the price by type. But we've also added resource contracts, so you can actually see as you assign resources, the dollar value and cost that they're assigned to will start accumulating automatically for you on the right-hand sidebar. So if I assign Brad to this item and Ian to this item, you'll see it starts creating their contracts. There's no cost here right now, so if I start putting costs in, you'll see that this starts to fill in the resource contracts as soon as we get this submitted. And that will actually bring those in and have you track the cost value of everything that those resources are assigned to throughout the estimate. And so, and that's why. So I had my cost here. Quantities are important as well. So if you don't have quantities, 0 times a number is 0. For those of you who have gotten past elementary school math, apparently I might need to go back and check that a little bit. But my resource contracts are now calculating. I was trying to figure out why those numbers weren't coming in, and multiplying by 0 is not a good way to make money. So
always gives you a 0, Taylor.
Yes, yeah, that is not something that we want. So make sure that you've got your quantities in there as well. That will solve a lot of your problems, because if you have 0 quantities, it doesn't matter how much they cost, you're not making anything off of them. So that coming in, we do have some really nice ties to the resources. Again, some reports that we're going to have, requests for quotes, purchase orders, things like that coming through the system. Will be something that ties in very nicely with the resource assignments. And if we move through a little bit here, you'll see that some of the other columns that we saw in the simple view or the basic view, the markup, markup type, dollar markup, do tie in here. We've actually added the change order price in here, so that's going to be a little bit more of a post-contract feature as well, to show the difference between the original contract price and the total price. Change orders can actually be linked in. Let me see if I don't have any change orders on this job. So if I want to create one very quickly, and we'll say this is just going to be a new change order, and let's say that this is septic tank removal. We'll say that this is going to cost $2,500. And we'll go ahead and show a markup so you guys can see this functionality. This is nothing new, but we do, of course, continue to support this functionality of change orders tying into the estimates. The estimating that we're building on here, we definitely are excited about having what is now by far the most powerful online estimating that you're going to find in the construction industry, especially tied into a project management system. But it's not to undersell the existing functionality that we've had for a while too. It actually is pretty impressive going back and trying to compare what we have now to what we've had up to this point. And a lot of those boxes get checked for the existing estimating. It's something that definitely shouldn't be undervalued up to this point either. So
that's exactly right. Actually, looking back over the last couple of years since the budgeting was initially released on Construction Online, it's been one of the most popular and used features. Just looking at metrics and seeing what people are using, budgeting really ranks right there at the top in terms of what people have been using. So these enhancements will expand on that, but to be sure, it's definitely been a popular tool for people to use.
Absolutely. And to date, we expect this number to go up pretty significantly with the kind of onslaught of interest in our new estimating and just the new people we've had signing up and kind of geared up and ready to go. But I mean, to date, last time I checked, which wasn't too recently, but Construction Online was managing somewhere over $50 billion in active projects. So that comes from a handful of users. I say a handful, about 400,000 users across the world in about 75 different countries. So again, not to undersell what we've had so far, it's just that we're extremely excited about some of these new features, and hope you guys are too. And tying those into, I guess, the future of Construction Online. So back to our focus here with the change orders, though. So I'm going to go ahead and add this. Just take a quick note that the cost is $2,500. We've got a $400 markup, giving us a $2,900 client price. So when we actually create this, we can link this change order to the budget or to the estimate in any area. And let's just say at this place we've got design services. So if I go back to the estimate details, scroll back over to my change order price, you'll see that there's now a $0 value in my column. Obviously the change order wasn't for $0, but at this point it's still pending, so that is not going to affect the contract price in any way until it's accepted. If we go back to the change order and actually accept this on behalf of the client, then we'll see that change order price of $2,900, again, that is the price including the markup, so this is what your client will see, this is what your client will pay, is added to that as well. And so if we go in here, we do have our change order linked, and you can actually go in and unlink it as well if you would like. But this is going to be the way, and I'll go ahead and do that since it doesn't fit very well into this particular subcategory, but that will be the way to manage change orders and show that as well. So I'm going to show you what the client portal looks like shortly. That's a big exciting feature that we've had. We had a ton of feedback on the client portals and I guess the way that budgets were showing previously to the clients, and wanting a little bit more customization or even just a different view for the client so that they don't see everything that you're working on or all the detail. We have customized those columns a little bit, given the clients really only what they need to see, and we will show that here shortly as we go into the portals once we finish up a little bit with the pro user side of Construction Online. So the last thing that I wanted to mention here in the advanced view of the estimate mode is that we now have our invoiced column. So previously we had a paid column in Construction Online, which you could have used for invoicing, you could have used for your actual expenses and your company costs. We have given you the ability to do both now. So spoiler alert for our conversion modal here, we're actually going to give you both an invoice column and then an actuals column when you're in job costing. Again, tying very nicely into some enhanced QuickBooks Online integration that's coming right down the pipe, really giving you the most advanced job costing as well. And Xero too, don't want to forget Xero. We integrate with them as well. I know QuickBooks Online is just the default, I guess, name that I use when referring to that, but don't want to leave Xero out of that either for those of you using them. And again, potentially some other accounting programs here in the next little bit. So the invoice column though, and the balance, that just calculates off the total contract price. So if we've invoiced for $5,000 here, $2,000 here, $10,000 here, or $1,000, however much I decide to put in, the balance will reflect that. And the dashboards that we have, so up here we will see the total price first invoiced. This is going to show you the exactly that, the price versus the invoice and the remaining balance that the client owes or that you have charged the client. So everything when we're here in the estimate mode, we have really separated out the client side and the invoicing and what you're being paid on the job from your expenses and your job costing and what you're paying out and your profit margins, to eliminate any confusion and to really give a clear-cut way to manage your estimates. And I do think that as I jump over here to a new estimate in just a moment, it will really make a lot of sense as far as seeing one that's actually filled out with more than just $0 figures here. But you've got the invoice and balance. The dashboard is going to show that on a category by category basis so that you always have up-to-date information on where you stand on the job, what's left on your next draw, what you've currently invoiced for, and have a good idea of visualizing that as well. I do want to mention that over here on the right-hand sidebar, another thing we've added in addition to the resource contracts is the job costing section. So you can always see your adjusted costs, your actuals, committed costs, things we haven't gotten to yet in this session, but your total price and invoiced amount and profit, which is actually something we haven't talked about yet either. We actually do a really cool calculation on profit, pretty intuitive and giving you guys some good insight into how you're performing on the job. We'll talk about that as we move into the job costing mode in just a moment. But I do want to bring your attention to the enhanced sidebar features because there's really a lot of good things over here. The resource contracts, your kind of summary metrics for your job costing, price by type, so your change order dollar values and selection dollar values. And then the categories, if you come over here, you can see how much you've attributed price-wise, so contract-wise, to each category. And if you click on them, you'll see that our estimate snaps right to them and takes you to that place as well. So we've made this as easy as possible to use and navigate through. Obviously, that is a big component, is you got to love what you use, you got to use what you love. And Construction Online, that's been a major goal of ours for a long time, but even more so in recent past, to make sure that you are getting the most out of your software, that's really empowering you to quickly do the jobs that you can't do on the job site, to make sure that you can get back to building and working with your clients and building those relationships. So any questions about that, please send them in, let us know. It should be pretty intuitive. But at this point, what I'm actually going to do is go ahead and switch over to what, say, a completed estimate would look like and talk about a little bit more of the big picture. We've kind of pieced it together here and there. I've thrown a few things at you guys and want to just show you what it all looks like in the big picture as you're working with this. So we're actually going to start this by talking about those of you who have been using our budgeting tool already on Construction Online. There is a slight conversion process that goes through this to kind of account for all of the new columns that we've added, the changes in the estimating that you'll see here compared to what you're currently using. So if we actually switch over to one of my existing, what will be a budget at this point. So those of you coming into Construction Online when we release the estimating tool here in the next couple of days, wanting to use this for the first time, what you will actually see for existing budgets is a nice little process like this. We've made it quick and easy. There's just 2 major questions that we have to ask to make sure that we're taking your data and converting it properly so that you can continue working without any hiccups. And so it'll show you, this is your project that you're converting. And the 2 big things that we have to ask are that paid column that I referenced, so that could have been used for invoiced amounts or actual costs, pretty much asking you how you're using that. So we're either going to take that paid column and put it into your invoiced amounts if you choose for client payments, or we're going to take that paid column and put it into your actual costs if you were using it for company expenses. And this may have varied for you on a job-by-job basis, so you can choose these settings, for each project. It's not going to be a universal setting that you have to choose. So in this case, let's say that I was using my paid column for my expenses. That's now going to translate to my actuals. We'll calculate my remaining budget off of that. And everything will continue working exactly as you're used to. The other question that we really have is that I mentioned the estimating mode and the job costing mode. So we've got the kind of pre-contract and post-contract calculations going on here. And really for mostly overhead and margin purposes, and the way that we handle that with your selections and your allowances, we just need to know whether you are still pre-contract in this job or post-contract in this job. And we'll take care of the rest for you, but really pre-contract is going to make sure that those calculations are updated. Post-contract is going to make sure everything's locked down exactly as it was before, so that none of your numbers are changing. Whatever you signed the contract for is exactly what you're still going to see on the new estimates. And in this case, I'm going to say pre-contract. And once you've clicked those 2 buttons, all you have to do is click continue. And this will flip your existing budget right over into a new Construction Online estimate, so you're not going to have to recreate or re-enter all of this content. You've got the complete ability to use everything that you're currently using if you're in the middle of a job, and get the full functionality that we offer with with the new estimating. And so this is a converted estimate that I have brought in, so you'll see that everything came in from the name and category and subcategory descriptions, the base costs. Of course, markup and markup type will be blank because those fields did not exist before. You can go through and add those in if you would like. Contract price, change orders, all of that comes in very nicely as well. And so this is kind of what the conversion process will look like. But I'm going to jump over and, again, instead of making you guys watch me put all the markups or all the resources or anything like that in for any additional subcategories, I'm just going to switch over to, let's say, this Evergreen Terrace job that I know has a pretty in-depth estimate. And this is actually going to be kind of introducing you to our 5-column estimating as well. So I'm going to take a quick pause, step back for a second to kind of let us collect our thoughts. I know I've been talking pretty much nonstop for the last 20-25 minutes. And with all the new features, it is a lot to take in. So I'm going to let us collect ourselves for about 10 seconds here, take a sip of water, and then we'll dive right into this 5-column. I'll let you guys look at it for a second and take it in and try to start understanding what we've got here. And if Holly, you want to chip in while I'm doing this, go for it.
Definitely. So, well, this is fun too because it's one of those requested features. The way that we've always done budgets and estimates has been where you really assign a class or classification for each of those items that you're listing out, and that works so well for so many users who are using it that way. I know many of you though came up estimating a little bit differently in Excel with those different classifications represented by columns going across the top, and so we've also introduced an option for you to be able to do it that way as well. And I have to say I've gotten hooked. I've used the system myself a good bit and have had some fun really playing with this new 5-column layout because I found that I can go really, really fast through an estimate.
Yes, exactly. And so the 5-column estimator is, again, it's not the only option that you have now. So for those of you who prefer the standard estimating and like to keep it simple and just put in some lump sums and, churn it out really quickly, you've still got that. For those of you looking to get a little bit more, maybe not even more detailed, but organized differently, I guess is a better way to put it. With your columns, I'm actually going to switch back. So take note, we've got the 5 columns: material, labor, subcontractor, equipment, and other, across the same row. So if we have, floor systems, instead of having floor systems materials and floor systems labor as 2 different lines, we can just put floor systems here and then have material, labor, any equipment or subcontractor expenses all the way across. And it really saves you the time from having to enter those multiple lines and create, again, multiple items for floor systems when you've got material and labor costs that you're tracking. And so to show you kind of where this comes from the from the standard approach, I'm going to switch back to this Georgetown crossing. And while I'm here, I saw a question come in a little bit earlier about these 3 columns on the left that aren't really labeled. I'll address those briefly. The left one is just our little stoplight column. Gives you the ability to tag these with different colors, green, yellow, red. And there is, the biggest question that we get on that is, well, what's the intended purpose? And there are a few suggestions that we have for it, but really the beauty of that feature is that it can be used for whatever you want it to be used for. I've seen clients use it for purchase order status, so purchase orders that have been generated, fulfilled, and paid, for example. I've seen people use it for the status of the job itself, so whether it's on schedule, behind schedule, as far as payments go, or just as far as construction goes. And a few other things are pretty popular with that as well. But for the most part, that is, available to be used however your heart desires. The next column is our notes column, and there actually is a change that we're implementing with the notes column. Again, some customization between what you're working on in the budget and what you're sharing with your clients and subs via the portals, if you choose to show those. So if you click on this cell, it'll actually open up a little notes field, and you'll see some of these already have notes indicated by this icon, that if I click on it, there's some content in here. But we've got 3 different tabs here. So we've got general notes, which are what you will see and your employees will see as you're working in the estimate. And then we have tabs for the TeamLink notes and the ClientLink notes. So those of you familiar with Construction Online and the way that the permissioning works with the client portals and the TeamLink portals, you actually choose the features that they see. But up to this point, you haven't really had a lot of customization as far as the content that they see for budgets. It's either they see nothing or they see everything. And so at this point, we have introduced a couple new features for customization that allow you to go through and have your general notes for internal use, the TeamLink notes, which anybody that signs in through the TeamLink portal will see these on their budget in place of the general notes, and the ClientLink notes for anything that you want to share with the client. But again, you keep your own internal notes or anything like that on the general notes so that they don't see those. So all of that is going to tie in. You can customize those notes, put those in here. That's what this column is. And then the third column, which is really going to tie into our transition to the 5-column estimating, is our classification column. So previously, and still to date, if you're using the standard estimating, you'll be able to come over here and assign each row as a material cost, a labor cost, a subcontractor cost, an equipment cost, or another cost. And that will translate over here to our right-hand sidebar. You can see it totaling our other costs, our material costs, etc., etc. And so now, as I mentioned, you would have like footers labor and then footers materials as 2 separate rows with their own designation. One is labor, one is materials. With the 5-column, what that does for you is it actually switches over and it already pulled up. So I looked away for half a second and it was already here. I thought it was still loading. That fast. That's another thing. Speed is incredible here. Really want to give a big shout out to some of our developers that have worked on this and really just blown me away with the speed at which they are updating and generating these estimates. And click and wait is pretty much the devil as far as we're concerned. And we try to eliminate as much of that as possible. And up to this point have really succeeded with that on the estimating, as well as everywhere else in construction online. But since this is the golden child for today, we will go ahead and shed the spotlight on that and give credit where it's due. But yeah, so you'll see here on the 5-column that we no longer have that classification column, and that's because it's not necessary. You do have those classifications explicitly listed out here, so you don't have to choose what classification your footers item is. It doesn't have to be footers material, footers labor. It can be footers, and then have your material and labor or subcontractor expenses right here in line. And all of that, of course, is going to transition into some different reports, some different ways to treat this throughout Construction Online, all of which will be, kind of a natural handling of it based on how you would expect the classifications to break out. Still have your class totals over here as well, and so that is really something that is going to transition extremely well for a lot of you. I see some questions and comments coming in here. This is one of those things that if it's big for you, it's huge for you. And we're really excited to get this into your hands for the estimating as part of the upgrade. So, it's not just an upgrade to the existing estimating. There's a whole new style of estimating that we have here that is better suited for a lot of our clients and will just expedite your processes even more. And so everything else in the 5 column outside of this, though, so we've really just replaced that unit cost with these 5 columns right here. So you still got quantity, multiple different classifications of unit cost, and then base cost. Everything else is going to be identical after that. So your markup, your contract price, your change order price is tied in exactly the same as it would be in a standard estimate. So looking at this now, I'm going to go ahead and collapse this so that we can get some visibility on our estimate modes. Really the process that we envision or that we see here is that you'll be using these new features and tools. The very quick, easy entry for estimate creation, the 5 column approach with your markup and resource assignments to really set up your estimate and your contract, price that out from the beginning as far as building the contract and winning the job goes. And we, of course, do have your proposals that you can generate once that estimate is kind of locked in and you're ready to deliver the proposal package. And you can just click Create Proposal over here on the right-hand side. It'll launch our report generator. And we have added the class totals to the report generator as well, so you can have the proposal show the material total, the labor total, the subcontractor total at the end of the document. And so let's just do material and labor here. But you do have a few other options to show different levels of detail. So if you want to show everything, you can show categories, subcategories, and even the descriptions on those. If you wanted to cut it down a little bit, you could go to the category level, or if you don't check any of these boxes, you really just get a big lump sum number. In this case, would be the 353,740, with no scope breakdown or pricing breakdown at all. Just whatever types of terminology or legal terms you put in there, and the agreement or the signature line. I want to show off a little bit more than that for you guys today, though. So I'm going to include categories and subcategories, overhead and margin. Depending on if you're doing cost plus or a fixed contract job, you can either include those separately and show explicitly what you're making to the client, or you can prorate those amounts throughout the contract and roll those up into the category or subcategory costs. And so in this case, I'm going to do it separately so you can see that. Final touch here is, of course, uploading your letterhead, really putting that professional look and feel on it, the customization as well, and the brand awareness for you and your company, so that they know exactly where this came from and who's giving them these professional reports. And then when you generate that, it's going to throw this up. Again, everything that you chose to include, I went subcategories and categories on this level. So letterhead, client, company, project info, and then a full breakdown of the cost here on the estimate. All the way through, very easy to read, very digestible. And then at the end, depending on what you chose to include, I have some allowances on here as well for my selections. I've got my overhead and margin listed. And then it's going to subtotal everything up for us nice and easy. Material and labor totals I chose to include as well. And then you've got your agreement. So this can be shared directly through Construction Online. As you can see, the button at the top, Save to Construction Online, and go ahead and share this through the portal so that the client can sign off on it and deliver it back to you. Anything that you need to change on this, of course, just go back, tweak the estimate or the proposal options, regenerate it really quickly, and you've got a brand new proposal. Backing up a little bit on this, I'm actually going to close out and go back to the estimate. That's really going to be the transition point that we envision for you between the estimating mode and the job costing mode. So you'll go through, generate your proposal, cost out these items or price out these items based on your estimates. And once you win the job, that's where things really shift gears and you're tracking your expenses more and doing the job costing, which is a completely new part of the estimating that we're about to introduce to you, something that we haven't had at all up to this point, that is going to tie in internally to Construction Online, but also with our accounting systems, QuickBooks Online and Xero, and really is going to pave the way for one feature, Holly, that we didn't mention earlier, and I'm shocked that we didn't, is application for payment generation. So that is one thing for those of you who are familiar, again, with our legacy of desktop estimating and really the most powerful job costing and accounting integration that you'll find, will know that the G702 and G703 generation that we have with QuickBooks Desktop on ConstructionSuite side is one of the most valuable features that I've ever seen. I mean, you can generate a full application for payment in under 30 seconds, and that's really the direction that this has allowed us to go in with Construction Online, but also allowing that internally, so you won't need an accounting system to do that. It's all going to be right here within Construction Online.
Managed all in one place, really, which is what we found that people are really looking for.
Exactly. And so now what you're going to see is, and you'll see exactly what I mean by how this is going to tie in, is once you've signed that contract, you'll really shift from estimate mode, and we've created, kind of a visual break for you when you create the proposal, and then after that, you're going to move to the job costing mode. And when I click on this, I'm going to bounce back and forth for a minute to really let you guys see how some of this info translates over. But it has condensed a few things and then added a few columns for job costing and cost tracking. From the estimate mode, really what it does is it takes this base cost that you have and uses that as the basis or the foundation for your budget and your balance. So when we switch over to job costing mode, that base cost translates here, and that's really what we start working off of. Your resources, of course, still come over because a big part of this is going to be managing buyouts and adjusted costs that you have as the job goes on. And so if we take a look at this, we have added columns like the adjustment column. And what this is going to allow you to do is do things like manage buyouts and cost plus jobs in a very easy way, to where you've got the contract amount still here, $5,500 for the base cost. But let's say that at the time that the proposal was signed, this bid was still out. It hadn't been awarded yet. And maybe you signed the bid, 3 weeks into the job, and it comes in, instead of at $5,500, at $5,000. So now what you can do is you can come in and say, okay, well, we're negative $500 from here, so we're going to drop this cost down to $5,000. That puts our adjusted cost now at $5,000, and that is going to be the new basis that we're calculating our profit and our expenses off of. So at this point, I actually have some actuals in here already, but what you'll see is we've got a $500 adjustment, bringing our adjusted cost down to $5,000. Our actuals are $2,000, which leaves us with $3,000 remaining. So actuals can be manually entered. This says, maybe I bump this up to $2,500. We will have some integration with those accounting systems pulling that in automatically as well. But for now, you'll see you've got your adjusted cost, the actual cost, which is your expense to date, of course, what you've paid on the job, and that will give you your remaining budget in this case for what you have left to spend. Excuse me, I think I've been talking a little too much. Didn't think that was possible, but
if you guys can't tell, we're very excited about everything we're showing off today, for sure.
And sometimes when I get in this mode, my brain just kind of shuts off, and I just, just get in the zone and get tunnel vision on this. Sometimes I forget to breathe even. So we're gonna take a second here and again take another sip of water. And if you guys want to, kind of flush your brain and get back in the mindset as well, we'll keep moving through here because this is really one of the most exciting parts. This is one of the things that is going to be a huge game changer for our clients, something that has not existed really in this capacity in Construction Online to date. And even really in ConstructionSuite, the adjustment column is something, with the way that it's managed, has really opened up the ability to have better subcontractor management or better cost adjustments as the job goes on without losing that initial contract. And that's something here. So as you do that, that ties in. Your adjusted cost is the new basis for your expenses. The contract price doesn't change, so your profit is still based off of what you signed the contract for. And that's actually something that's worth talking about here, is that profit calculation, because we will be going through, and if you look at the job costing sidebar here, showing your profit on this job pretty explicitly and letting you see what the best estimate of your profit's going to be to date. And the way that this works is actually a very in-depth but a very simple, really you just let it do the calculations itself. method, and it's going to start with your markup. So if I switch back over to the estimate mode and look at one of these items, I have a $500 markup on design services. And so that's where my profit starts. That's my baseline. Okay, I've got a $500 markup. I expect to make $500 on this item. If we switch back over to job costing mode, I'm actually going to clear this adjustment back out. So you'll see that's our baseline. Profit starts at 500. If we do have an adjustment, so if we have a buyout, let's say, the client still signed that contract for $5,500, but if that drops down to $5,000, then now we're paying $500 less than we expected, so our profit goes up $500. As we manage this a little bit more, the profit is going to stay stable as your actuals increase. So as long as you're below this adjusted cost, so let's say as the job progresses, you move up to $3,000, move up to $4,500 in actuals, profit's still going to stay at $1,000. But once you cross that threshold, if you start spending more money than you had originally estimated for, then it starts cutting into your profit and really taking away from those margins. So now you'll see if I go to, let's say, $5,200, the profit's going to drop $200 to an $800 profit. And so that calculation is kind of dynamic based off a couple different things, starting really with your originally anticipated markup, just the root of all of your profit calculations. And then as you have those adjustments, that profit's going to change dynamically based on what you're telling the system, whether you expect to pay more or less than you signed that contract for on the job. And so that will continually track your profit, total that up on the right-hand side, so you've always got a really broad idea of really how you're performing on the job. And that, again, could tie into future features like a work in progress report, so you can see on a company-wide basis where all of your expenses are coming, what types of of expected payments you have coming in, what your profit margins are going to be, and really tracking the health of your project throughout the life of it, instead of just at the end finding out that you're either, good news, 12% margin on it, or bad news, you're in the hole.
Exactly. I mean, that's really, when we think of our big picture goal with estimating and the financial tools that we provide now in Construction Online, and that we've really always provided, that's a big part of it, is that it shouldn't be just creating an estimate in the beginning and that's it. You don't know anything else until the end of the job. Our goal is really to give you tools that you can't get anywhere else, that helps you monitor, like Taylor was saying, the health of the job, so that you really have better information sooner, allowing you to make adjustments yourself, allowing you to make better decisions on this job and future jobs as well. So it's really about what you can do with that information as you're creating it.
Absolutely. And with that, so as far as visibility goes and having access to that information throughout the job, we do still have these dashboards up here that everyone has gotten to love and really see that visibility on their project. We have a different dashboard now for both modes, for the estimate mode and job costing mode. The job costing mode dashboard is going to be what most of you are familiar with, kind of your cost or your actuals versus the estimated cost, showing you really what's left in your budget on a category by category basis. And if we switch over to estimate mode, and it's a subtle change, so you'll see a few things have kind of shifted here. For those of you unfamiliar with what actually just happened, the estimate mode shows price versus invoiced, whereas the job costing mode shows actuals versus estimated. So here, when you're in estimate mode, this dashboard will show what your client has paid and what the client is still outstanding on, what their balance is and what they have left to pay you. And then on the job costing mode, you'll be able to see what you've spent on the job and what you have remaining in your budget for the construction budget. So a lot of that is, it's a subtle change. You might not catch on to that if you're switching back and forth between the dashboards, but it's a big feature that we've added, again, really separating the client-facing side from the internal construction side, price versus cost, so that you have full control over that and what's being displayed. And so focusing on that, talking about the client interaction, I did want to show you the client portals as well. We've made a few changes to that, and it's still a very clean, very easy to access system, but if you go over to the client portal, I'll bring this over here. When your client logs in to the Evergreen Terrace job, which is what we're on here, if you're showing the estimate to them, we have done a few things here to customize this view a little bit to make it more client specific. Again, the notes that you'll have here will be those ClientLink notes from the tabs that you saw on the pro user side. The name, description, and contract price all translate over. So at this point, they don't see any of your markup. They don't see any of the base costs or the unit costs that go into this. They just see the final amount that they're paying on a line-by-line basis, and any change orders, of course, that have been added to that as well. And then they can see, as long as you're putting this information into the system, how much they have paid or how much you've invoiced them and what their remaining balance is on each of these items. So they have full visibility on what they have left to pay, what their status is as far as their balance goes throughout the life of the job. And so this is something that we have made some significant improvements to and just made it a customized view so that it's not clients seeing the same thing that you see, because for our Cost Plus clients, that was perfectly fine and all well and good. They show everything anyways. For our fixed contract clients, we had some, let's just say, not so happy people that were wanting to show the budget to the client but not show the markups, or I guess in this case the costs that they had pre-contract price. And now we have really adjusted that and made it to where the client really only sees what they need to see. And you can expect some customization coming to this as well. But for now, we've given kind of the best of both worlds in this, to where the client can see the contract amounts, what they've paid on the job, and you can see everything from your costs and your markups and the resources as well. So this is what you'll see in the client portal. I'm going to close back out of this and head over to back to the main ConstructionOnline interface. And I'm trying to think. I've been talking so much about the estimate functionality. I know there's a couple different things that this is going to tie into, and I definitely want to show a little bit of the redline functionality as far as what's going to tie into digital takeoff before we wrap up.
Yeah, I think that'd be great to jump into. One thing, Taylor, if you could show just a little bit or touch on this before we navigate away, a pretty popular question today, and I've been trying to keep up. You guys, we've had such an overwhelming response to this webinar, so if I haven't gotten to you yet, know that we are paying close attention to these questions coming in. But a pretty popular question has been, for people that have an existing estimate template that they're using, is there an easy way to get that into the system? So I know that we've really built some great tools for that, so I think that would be one good thing to show off before we jump away from what we're looking at here.
Absolutely. And so so that has been a big request for a while, something that we have definitely paid attention to and heard from our clients for I don't even know how long at this point, and that is definitely something that we addressed in the estimating updates. So in our actions menu, we now have both an export to Excel option if you're trying to get this out and look at this outside the system, as well as an import option into ConstructionOnline for anything that you have in other systems or in Excel that you'd like to get into our program. So you don't have to create everything from scratch. So the export to Excel option is going to be right here. If you click it, it will just go ahead and download an Excel file, as you see down here in the bottom of my screen, for the job. You can open it up, and I'll actually show this to you guys while I'm at it. And it will give you a full Excel estimate with all of your columns, so the name, cost, adjustments, adjusted costs, everything there. And that's pretty straightforward. You can do whatever you want to with it once it's in Excel. Of course, we encourage you to use it within ConstructionOnline and get the most functionality out of it. But we also have, when you're creating new estimates, the ability to import from Excel. So instead of creating a new estimate through the system, if you've got something, maybe, the most common thing we hear for people starting to use software is that their current system is kind of a mix or a hybrid of, Microsoft Excel, Microsoft Word, Google Calendars, things like that. And really they're transitioning into an online system. And of course, we want to make that transition as easy as possible for those users. And so, or even if you're getting bids from subs, or if you're getting bids from somebody else, or have sheets coming in from another program, Excel is kind of the common denominator for all of that you can use, at least as a gateway to transition in. And so you can import from Excel, and what this does is give you the ability to choose the project that you want to take that Excel file into. Of course, many of you will not know the format that this is supposed to be in. It does have to be in a specific format. So we've given you the ability to go ahead and download the template. And so if you're looking to import from Excel, I'm going to back up a step. What you'll do is go create new estimate, choose the import from Excel option, and go ahead and just download this template. Again, it will give you an Excel file that you can kind of use to match up with what you're looking to import. And so you've got all the columns that come in here: code, name, description, quantity, unit cost. This is the standard estimate template, as you can see, for our standard estimate type. If you want the 5-column estimate template, what you'll want to do is just select 5-column here before you click import, and then download the template, and you will actually see that now this gives me the 5-column template, which has material, labor, equipment, etc. broken out. So
exactly. So if any of you are doing your estimates right now in Excel, this is going to be a really easy way to get something that you're kind of already used to in terms of, especially if you've got cost codes that you're using or a specific structure or layout. This will be a really fast and easy way to get that into the system.
Absolutely. And so it's a good way to get started with that. And of course, at that point, if you have a template that you would like to create off of that and use it over and over again, you can make a quick transition from Excel, if that's what you're currently using, and really bring everything into Construction Online from that point on to make things easier on yourself. But yeah, you've got a pretty straightforward breakdown here. The one thing I do want to mention is that you'll notice that we just have a name column. There's nothing designating categories and subcategories explicitly. We've made this very easy for you and made it very intuitive. The way that this works is that the first thing that you type into here will be a category. And so if I go ahead and type, I'll just say framing in here. And so we're going to treat that first row as a category, and then everything else is going to be a subcategory underneath that. So let's say wall systems, floor systems, and let's say deck materials. We'll just go through, and now if you want to get to the new category, so framing was our first one, wall systems, floor systems, deck materials are our subcategories. You just leave a blank line, and after we see that blank line, the next line is then going to be the next category. So foundation's a category, and then slab, footers, anything else that you have here. Just really wanted to show you that it's an intuitive system, so there's not an explicit designation for categories and subcategories, but you can really just go through and build it the same way that you have in Construction Online. And I guess I don't have the template up right now. I'll show you guys in a moment, but and have category as the first line, and then subcategories. When you're ready to go to the next category, just leave a blank line. The next item is going to be your new category, and then subcategories after that. So you have an easy way to get that template. As Holly mentioned, this is really one of the most practical and most demanded features from our clients. And again, we don't want to create any barriers to using Construction Online. I mean, the cost of change a lot of the times from other systems is perceived to be very large. To think that you're going to have to start from scratch, even if you're not happy with your current system and you think that Construction Online is going to give you everything that you want, a lot of the times there's a perceived cost of change there as far as time goes, that you're going to have to recreate a lot of this content. And we've made that almost negligible. So in this case, we've given you as many options as possible to take existing data from Excel or other programs that export to Excel, bring that right into Construction Online, and dive in almost immediately. So yeah,
exactly. I mean, we've worked hard to make it easy, and I think this is a good time to mention. I know for many of you, familiar names have come through our success program or worked with a success coordinator here. On our side, it really is an outstanding team. For any of you thinking of getting started with Construction Online, we really do have a lot of resources to help make that transition very easy for you. I do think also this reminded me, Taylor, looking at your screen here, that we can also probably give our attendees today a quick sneak peek of another new resource we've added for them. You'll notice in that bottom right corner, you have a new help resource. So one of the things we invest heavily in your success, of course, as our clients, and creating these videos, webinars with our success team. And we've also recently added a new help resource that allows you to search for instructions or topics depending on what you're doing in Construction Online, and be able to get some quick step-by-step instructions and know exactly where to go to get the information you need.
Yeah, exactly. And we're extremely excited about this because, again, it makes your life easier. It makes things easier to find for you. And of course, if it's, if you guys are night owls working at 1 a.m. in the morning and need some quick help on it, we have our YouTube videos. We have a couple other help resources that are available to you. But if you're already in Construction Online, you might as well just pop up our little beacon here in your interface. go ahead and search for something, and I searched for schedule. That pulled up about 10 results here related to schedules, and if I wanted to see how to create a schedule template, for example, I could click on that, and it would give me a nice little blurb or kind of excerpt here on what those are used for, what we recommend as best practices, how to do it, of course. And then typically, if we have a video pertaining to it, you'll have a nice video right here in line with it so that you can watch that right now. So you don't have to go over to YouTube and check that out. So, those are the things that we take for granted, I feel like.
Yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned it because it's been floating here on my screen the entire time. It's a great feature, but it's one of those things, well, yeah, this makes sense and we're going to do it. And really feel like we should promote this a little bit more because that's a huge tool for you guys. I mean, it really is. So yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. We can tie that in very nicely. And this knowledge base, by the way, will continue to grow. We are, kind of in the early stages of implementing it. Have a lot of great content and topics there already. But if you search for something and it's not there, we will know about it. We'll actually see that you've searched for it, and that'll kind of give us a clue as to what you're looking for that we might need to add content for. But you can also send a message to us, with your name and email address and kind of a general excerpt of what you were looking for, or maybe you didn't find what you were looking for and the request to add something, or even clarification on this. And the ability to attach files here, screenshots are always helpful if you've got specific questions kind of as far as the technical side goes. So feel free to send those in. We'll be looking out for those. And that's a great resource for you to use as far as help and support goes in a quick manner, as opposed to diving into YouTube or having to call us up. A lot of the times that's going to take care of what you need in a matter of seconds. So we're really excited about that as well. And so on that, I guess it's worth mentioning at least that the selections and change orders tie in exactly as they have before. So you'll still have your selections or your allowances over here on the secondary tabs. Change orders as well for you to create and view those from the estimate, and those come in very nicely at the bottom of your estimate, kind of in their own section for adjustment. So selections will show you what the allowance is and what the adjustment is based on the choices that your clients made, the net difference between what was allowed and what they chose. Change orders, of course, reflect here as well, and that's going to tie in very nicely and bring you down to, if I go to the estimating mode, we do have your overhead and margin section also down here for you to put in those overall percentage markups or margins that you have to easily calculate on that job as well. So I know we have had a ton of questions come in, and Holly's got the hard job. I'm just over here talking. Anything that
probably hear me tapping away over here, trying to get these questions answered. Yeah, a lot of questions, a lot of interest, and it's so funny. We'll get a lot of questions, and then Taylor, you'll immediately kind of go into something that answers it. So yeah, I'm gonna
have to buy Holly dinner or something because I'm just over here talking, and anything that I don't explain well, she gets the feedback from it, and she has to deal with the outcome of it. So yeah, I will have to go back and be sure to review some of that, but. We do have some of those questions. I don't know. We've been at this for a little while, and I know we've gone into a lot of detail with a lot of this, and it's been a lot of information thrown at you guys because, quite frankly, there's been a ton of improvements. Do we want to take a quick second, maybe, Holly, and just kind of review some of these questions and see if there's any we want to address before we wrap up?
Yeah, I think that would be a great idea. We'll pause just a moment to kind of look through these questions and see what maybe I haven't been able to get to. The most popular questions today, one we just addressed, which is how to import existing information into the system. The next most popular question, by the way, has been from some excited Construction Online users really wanting to know, hey, when can I get my hands on this? So that'll be a great place, I think, for us to start in terms of letting our customers know when we're expecting this, which I believe is really in the next couple of days is the plan.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. And I mean, obviously I've been using it here in front of you in the webinar. Everything is working really fully functional. We have a pretty, I guess, like to think we have a high standard of excellence here and want to make sure that we've really tried to break it in as many ways as possible before putting it out there. But at this point, we have been working on this pretty relentlessly for a little while now for you guys, and are pretty confident in getting it out. And we think that some of the additional enhancements that are coming with this, some new reports, some obviously the new job costing and things like that are going to be well worth going ahead and putting it in your hands. So hopefully by the end of this week, it will be available, barring any last minute additions that we want to make before we go live with it, or tweaks that we want to make. But at the very latest, I would say probably Monday.
Yeah, I think it's something that we'll expect to have in your hands very soon. There are a lot of excited users, I think, looking forward to jumping in and working with the new system.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's take a second here, Holly, and recap some of these questions. We're going to put you guys on pause for just a second, and we'll be right back with you after we've looked at some of these questions. If you want to step out, grab a quick cup of coffee or water or something like that, and join us back here in just a minute or two, we will start addressing some of these questions and really wrap up with you guys there. All right, welcome back, everybody. We have had a second.
Thanks for sticking around.
Had a second to glance through some of these questions, and a lot of them are some of them are things Holly's been able to address, or that I've actually talked about already without even seeing the questions. Kind of got that. Got lucky on some of those, I think, but
yeah, I think we've got a mind reader over here. So
yeah, it would be nice. It definitely would. It would help with sales, that's for sure.
Well, I tell you what. I mean, we've already addressed, I think, some of the most popular questions for you guys, but we do have a number of questions. Probably our third most popular question that I see coming in are really people asking some great questions about additional functionality. So we've had a lot of questions from some of you as we've gone through this about do we have, for ConstructionOnline Estimating, an items database? Do we have assemblies? Do we have kind of an expanded integration with QuickBooks? I know that some of you guys are really used to using ConstructionSuite, considering migrating over from that side to a cloud-based solution. And so I think it's a good time too to recap really the plans for 2017. I mean, I'm so excited about what we have done with estimating online. It's going to be huge for you guys to jump in and start using this. I am also really excited though about what's really kind of on the books to be a fantastic 2017 in terms of the tools that we'll be able to provide for you guys. So the fun thing is that most of the tools you guys have been asking about are things that are already on our roadmap for the first part of this year, for the first half of 2017. There will be plans to expand into a database that you can use to kind of pull from that database into the new estimating tool. There's definitely plans to expand the way that QuickBooks integration works, including the way that we integrate with QuickBooks Online and some expanded integrations with potentially desktop versions of QuickBooks as well. That also is one of the things at UDA that we're really known for in terms of our level of expertise with the way that we integrate with accounting systems. A lot that we're able to do there, and so we really look forward to expanding the online functionality to kind of be that two-way integration with a QuickBooks Online. And then, of course, there's the super exciting development with Redline, which I know several of you have asked if we could just jump in and take a peek over there, so we'll definitely do that now. Right now with Redline, you've already got really some fantastic tools for measuring, so you're able to not only mark up documents but go in and measure. The plan, and one question that you guys have been asking about is what about digital takeoff, and that's exactly the plan there, to really allow you to use Redline as a digital takeoff tool and create dimensions and have those integrate with this new estimating platform. So really kind of moving towards a true all-in-one solution online like nothing that's available in the industry right now. So yeah, we're excited really to be able to offer that to our customers this year.
It really will be. And so, yeah, Redline is definitely a central point that a lot of you have asked about, if we can just show some of that and kind of the potential integrations that we'll have with our estimating. And so, again, Redline is available to all users of Construction Online at this point. And so some of the enhanced functionality with the project management elements are only for pro users, but we do have Redline plans and markup and, the calibration and kind of measurements available for even the free users. So if I jump in, and I'm actually going to, I'm not sure what drawings I have on this job, but I'm going to jump in and just open up whatever file that I have here. And so with Redline, you can upload your drawings into the system, and in addition to doing things, like general markups and, and freehand and highlighting and cloud tools and things like this, One of the biggest thing that's going to tie into estimating is our calibration tool. So if you've got a drawing that has, let's say, a scale on it, you can zoom in, go ahead and just overlap that scale or that legend and say, tell ConstructionOnline how far that is. So let's say in this case that this is going to be 100 feet that we've measured out here. Once I've calibrated that and told the system what measurements or kind of how the measurements relate to the drawing, I can go in and use a ruler tool and measure this as well. So this is going to be 69 feet here. This is going to be 138, 139 feet here, and start getting just linear measurements, of course. But you can also go in and do things like area measurements. So if we have a square tool here, we can outline that and then toggle this area up on our toolbar, and that will show you this is about 7,000 square feet based on our legend down here of 100 feet is this distance. And a lot of those tools, really the most kind of impressive thing about this, to be honest with you, Holly, is not just that, but the ability with which we've been able to kind of tie in our polygon tools here and just take extremely strange areas like this and toggle those areas. And it's, there's some pretty advanced math that goes into this, and props to, again, the developers that have worked on this and just gotten this down to a science, literally. And made this calculate these areas that are, abstract or not just squares or rectangles. I mean, anything that you have here, if you wanted to, come in and measure, the area of this kitchen and say that it was going to be, something a little bit crazy like this and wanted to get the floor space, you could come in and do this and then toggle that area, and it's going to tell you exactly how much you need. And so, as you can see, we've talked about digital takeoff and kind of the material takeoffs, and it's not just, it's not one of those kind of pipe dream projects right now. It is almost there. We've done the hard part at this point to get ready for that. And at this point, we've got the measurements, we've got the dimensions, and we've got the plans that this ties into. All that's left is to just give you guys a way to relate, a certain quantity of materials to a certain dimension or a certain area, and say that, this 69 feet 2 inches correlates to, 22 by 4s, or that, every 5 feet is a 2 by 4. It's just that relational table that we need now to tie that in and give you guys an interface to tell the system what that means. And you've got digital takeoff and materials list, and, voila. So it's extremely exciting. As we show this off and as people see this, it's always nice to see kind of the light bulb come in. I know when we were down at IBS a couple weeks ago in Orlando, this was a huge feature, and a lot of, one of those face-to-face interactions that we got with clients, showing this off and letting them see this. And without us even getting to that point yet, the natural reaction was, so this is leading right into digital takeoff, right? And so absolutely, that's right where this is going. This is the plan or the roadmap that we have for Redline and for estimating, tying together and working very well in tandem. And so those are the two big features that we've released in the last 4 months or so.
Yeah.
Now estimating and Redline. And as you mentioned before we kind of dove into this, the big separating factors and the differentiating factors that make us unique in the sense that nobody else in the industry offers these tools in tandem. You've got some digital takeoff programs out there, you've got some estimating programs out there. Estimating is going to be, better than any of those, comparatively, even those that just do estimating now. And digital takeoff is better. Some of the software and technology that we have in this is faster, more responsive, more powerful than those that just do takeoff. We've merged it all together with project management, and not to mention the price point. I mean, you can't get takeoff software for less than, $1,000 a license. And compare that to the price point for ConstructionOnline and what else you get out of it, and it's almost kind of a no-brainer. I mean, it's a pretty jarring comparison.
Yeah, it really is. And we often, we talk a lot about speed here. It's something that we're definitely dedicated to, but we talk about it because it really does, the technologies that we're investing in, some of the competitors out there do a little bit of this and handle things a little bit differently from a technical standpoint. Nobody else in the world has the technology that we have, which is why we're able to offer digital takeoff completely online, kind of coming in 2017. So it really is kind of a separator in terms of what's available for you guys in the industry. And I think one thing that we say at UDA here all the time, every time we have a meeting, we talk about really our clients, you guys, as being the reason for our work and our dedication really to providing you with tools for success. And this is how we do that. We do it by trying to be the best, be the fastest, make sure that we're using world-class technology so that we can really expand out, the tool set. And I think Redline and Digital Takeoff is a great example of that. And something that's been in demand. I know that you guys are going to love using it and kind of get your hands on it for sure.
Yeah, and that, honestly, Holly, transitions pretty well into, I guess, what the final point or the final thing that I wanted to say before we kind of wrap up today is that, I mentioned right before that the comparison to what else is out there on the market, and from our perspective how much more powerful it is and how much more complete the software that we offer is, but also at the same time that it's more cost effective and an easier price tag. One of the biggest questions that I get, and I know you do too, and we kind of get the skepticism a lot of the time of, well, so why are you guys so cheap? Is it is there something I should know about? Like, why wouldn't you be selling this for more if it really does have all this, great content? And the short answer to that really does tie back to the company vision statement, what Holly was just mentioning on really every time we talk about a feature, every time we get together and meet about something, we talk about, our goal is your success, and our goal is to make our clients successful, and we really do it for you guys. Our vision here really is to have a presence on every job site in the world, every construction site in the world, giving construction professionals and their clients the ability to do things that they couldn't previously do, empowering you to do better, really just have higher expectations of yourself, and to build beautiful structures, to have better construction projects, to really just raise the standard for the construction industry. And that's why we don't want to create any barriers to entry. We don't want to exclude anybody from being able to do that because they're just now getting into the industry or their budget at this point doesn't allow them to do that. And so obviously we have to charge something to stay in business to continue providing these services to you guys, but we've tried to keep it as low as we can to make sure that it is something that everybody can use and that it really does have that larger impact on the construction industry. And that's our goal. We dream big. We want you guys to dream big, and really use this as your platform to grow into the most successful companies in the world. And so that's what it all boils down to. That's why we're so excited to release these new features and show these off to you guys. And I kind of want to leave it with that, honestly. I think that's a good way to close it up. And I know we've got some questions that have gone unanswered here. We will be happy to reach out to you guys individually and work with you on any outstanding questions. Mm-hmm. But I wanted to kind of leave that and throw that out there because it really is what drives everything that we do here. Yeah, it is. I think that's a great place to land. So on that note, without kind of distracting from that message too much, because that's really what it all comes down to. I want to thank you guys for joining us. This was one of our kind of special sessions that we do every now and then for new features. We will get back to some regularly scheduled webinars next week with Construction Online. Monday will be our overview. Wednesday, actually, no. Are we switching? Yes. So Monday we'll actually have a session focusing on scheduling. Next week on Wednesday we'll have a session focusing on Redline. Next week on Friday we'll have a session really focusing on kind of tying it all together using the Construction Online platform as a whole. The last thing really I did want to mention today, two things. One, we appreciate you spending some time with us this afternoon. We know that it's important to you when you decide to take your afternoon and spend it with us, so thank you for your time. The other thing I did want to mention is that we have recorded the session today for some of you that maybe came in late or had to leave early or want to revisit some of the, kind of revisit Taylor walking you through really how to use the system. That recording will be sent out to everyone who attended today, so we'll make sure to get that out to you very quickly this week. And
thank you again for joining us today.
Yeah, those of you who want to sit through this again, I have nightmares about hearing my own voice recorded, so I apologize if you do want to go through this video again, but it's got some great content, and I hope you really get the most out of it. If you'd like to call in and speak to somebody other than me after listening to me for an hour and a half, I completely understand, won't hold it against you, but I'm happy to talk to you as well. So thank you for joining us. This will be posted on YouTube in the near future, and we hope to see you guys coming into some of the webinars next week.